I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Lovers all over the globe. It is I, your lovable host, Elrod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. And yes, I did check again today, as I do almost every day. It has not changed. It is Monday, June the 29th in the year of our Lord 2015, as we kick off this grand week. A lot is coming up this week. I know everybody wants to talk about, continue talking about the Supreme Court's decisions from last week. And there's a few more that might surprise you, might not surprise you. We'll get into those a little bit later in the program. But first, I know those of you who listen to the show regularly know that I do not do a lot of interviews. However, when I come across true American heroes, I want to bring them on the show. Now, you heard a couple of weeks ago we had Colonel Allen West here. I had a great privilege of having Colonel Allen West. Today, I have another hero with us today. His name is Brian Mast, and he served in the U.S. Army from 2000 to 2012 as a soldier in the Army. He was... he had the occupational standards, military occupational specialist standards. He was an explosive specialist, an ordnance disposal. He was an airborne infantry, and he was a combat engineer. Now, in 2012, he retired from the U.S. Army's Joint Special Operations Command following a catastrophic injury which occurred while serving in Afghanistan. Now, for those of you who do not understand what a true hero is, this is a person who put his life on the line to protect everything that we hold dear in this country. Brian Mast has recently also announced his candidacy for the House of Representatives in his district in the state of Florida. I want to welcome to the program Mr. Brian Mast. Mr. Mast, welcome to the show. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to speak to you, sir.
Hey, sir. How you doing today?
Great. Now, you, it says that you suffered a catastrophic injury while serving in Afghanistan. Could you elaborate a little bit on exactly what happened to you?
I like to, basically preface that by saying that's kind of a relative term. Any of us that have served, we know that there's varying degrees of injury, and, I'm missing 2 legs and an index finger, but I have friends that are missing 4 limbs. I have friends that are missing 3 limbs. I have friends that are blind, that are burned, that are some combination of all of the above, essentially, and then all of us that have served, we all have friends that didn't come home at all. So, I guess you got to take that with a bit of relativity.
Some did definitely pay with the ultimate price, their lives, and that's something that this. My father served 21 years. He's retired Master Sergeant from the United States Air Force. After 21 years, he served in Vietnam and in Thailand in the 60s. So I'm kind of familiar, although I didn't actually put on the uniform myself. Although I did come close to doing it, but the recruiter finally, when at the bequest of my mother, believe it or not, I actually decided not to do it. And the recruiter at the time, he said, it's not unusual for those of career military personnel, their children not entering the service, because it is a difficult life for the entire family. Now, did you get your parents' support when you made this decision to join the military?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My father, he wasn't a career military man, but he served during the Korean War. He never went over. All of my uncles served in the military. So something that for me, just based on family tradition, it was something that I always wanted to do. But even beyond that, I spent my whole childhood growing up thinking that I was G.I. Joe and rolling in the mud and playing in the dirt. And I think I knew as I was nearing the end of high school that spending time in service is exactly what I wanted to do. And that's what I did.
Now, you were on the front lines disposing of military ordnance. Now, a lot of people, they kind of look at you guys as being, like the extreme sports people. You guys are adrenaline junkies. Is that how you described yourselves?
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't describe ourselves. Maybe some of us are like that, or we have traits like that, but that's certainly not the case. A lot of people compare our work to the work that's done in the movie The Hurt Locker, and that's the same job. They're EOD technicians in the Hurt Locker, and that's what I did. But what I generally say to people about the work that I did is, nobody would really question a fireman why he does what he does, or he or she does what they do. Why they go into the burning building to save life, and that's kind of the same mentality that we have. We know the hazards of what we're doing. We're trained on how to combat those hazards and move towards those hazards in a very methodical and purposeful way. And although it will never be safe what we do, it's still something that somebody has to do, and we're the ones that volunteer to do it.
Now, with the advent of ISIS turning the tables in Iraq, I know some of the heroes that have served in both those theaters in Afghanistan and Iraq, they tend to think maybe possibly their efforts were all in vain. Is that something that really is a thought that's crossing everyone's mind that served over?
I would never say that it's in vain. Personally, I often tell people that one of my favorite quotes in the world is this, that the world is not a dangerous place because of evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. And regardless of what may be going on today, the fact is that all of my brothers and sisters that served in combat in any of our theaters of war, that's what they were doing, is they were making sure that the United States of America never looked on and did nothing in the face of this evil. So I would never say that it's in vain. I can certainly say, yeah, you know what, I'm on the same page as every one of those other service members that hate to see, ISIS tracking through the streets that we fought to secure at one point. It's absolutely disheartening. It's absolutely frustrating to see them driving around the vehicles that we drove around. It's, to say the least, it's frustrating.
Now, you've just recently announced, back in the beginning of this month, you announced your candidacy for the House. Now, what was your motivation? What got you interested in actually running for this position?
Well, I've told a few people that thinking about running was something that I began doing when I woke up in Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I was laying in a hospital bed there, and I'm talking to my wife, and I'm telling her, what am I going to do now? I can't go through life thinking that my life is literally all downhill from here, that the greatest contribution I ever make to our country is back when I was injured in the U.S. military. And so I'm telling her, what can I do going forward to make sure that the best thing I do is still ahead of me? And I ultimately decided that I thought that would be pursuing public office, hopefully in the House of Representatives. And, there's been a lot of very specific catalysts that we can say, I'm sure you and I can agree on a lot of things that have really upset us in the way that our country is being led right now. And that was really a lot what led me to say, okay, it's that time for me to say I'm going to move on, and I'm going to try to pursue this, and I'm going to try to be a voice in our house that leads without regard for gain and without regard for sacrifice. And that's what I've told people. I think that's what we're missing up there is people serving in Congress the way that every one of our service members do on the battlefield, without regard for personal gain or sacrifice.
Now, I really wish we had more people like that, because obviously when you head up to Washington, D.C., or down or over from wherever your perspective in the country is, that you're immediately hit with all kinds of perks and money and people, waving bundles of cash for your personal gain. But there are those that refuse that and seem to do very well. Now,
and I try to say that I've done that already. To some degree, I don't mind telling you stories about that. I say, number one, look, my legs are not going to grow back anytime soon. And the fact remains that if I wanted to, I could go down right now and start collecting Social Security disability, even though I'm perfectly capable of going to work every single day. I've been working since the day I left the military, but I could still go down and collect Social Security disability. That's not a means-tested system. Or one of the other examples that I give is that, a lot of our service members coming home basically suffer from what's known as post-traumatic stress, and that's something that has not affected me. But when I woke up at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, that was something that was foisted upon me, that they said, okay, you were blown up in Afghanistan, you now have PTS. And I said, no, I don't. I'm perfectly fine. I couldn't be more at peace with everything that I did on the battlefield, and I'm perfectly all right. And they said, no, you definitely have this. If you don't have this, you're giving up another $2,000 to $3,000 a month in retirement bonuses, because you could be rated 100% and permanently totally disabled just based on PTS alone. And I said, no, I'm perfectly at peace, and this is something I don't have. And I actually had to fight more vigorously than I would have had to simply say, if I would have said, yeah, I do have PTS, they would have said, okay, you have it. But I had to fight and go through extensive cognitive testing for them to say, okay, fine, we won't rate you for this, and we won't give you an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month in retirement. And so I try to say, you know what, I'm not in this for the personal gain.
Why would they do that to you or to anyone?
It's probably a two-pronged problem. Part of it is what went on at Walter Reed Army Medical Center previous, early on in the war, where there was a lot of problems with the care that soldiers were receiving. And so really, people became so back on their heels that they didn't want anything to go wrong, and they became afraid to question anything whatsoever. And basically, they swung in the wrong direction, saying, okay, everybody has this. Because we don't want to question it, we're going to say that everybody is suffering from PTS. And now it becomes something that, because of the compensation that's given for it, it becomes a matter of almost a moral dilemma.
Now, your opponent is going to be Representative Alan Grayson, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Some of my opponents, this is going to be an open seat. The incumbent is a person named Patrick Murphy. Patrick Murphy beat Alan West for this seat back in 2012. And he's an individual that's announced he's running for the Senate. So it's going to be an open seat. Now, there are a few Democrats that have come out and announced their candidacy.
Oh, okay. Alan West's old seat. Yeah, they jerry-rigged that seat when they did redistricting in order to sort of help force Colonel West out of that position, and you're going to be in there trying to fight to regain that position. Good for you.
I'm going to try to fight the good fight.
Now, what are some of the things that you're seeing in your district that you think are different from the Democrats? Because you're running as a Republican, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And, I think I just touched upon one of those things. It's not necessarily first on my list, but it's certainly high on my list, and that's government accountability. I just brought up the fact that if I needed to right now, I could go out and collect Social Security disability. That's a problem with government accountability. I've worked in our U.S. Army for 12 years and a month. I've worked for various government agencies, and I can tell you that the way that accounting goes in these systems is not a system of accountability. It's a system where you're basically rewarded for using every single penny of the budget that you can, instead of if you were in the private sector, where you would be rewarded for saying, hey, I figured out a place where we could save a few dollars and make this a more lean operation. And that's not the way it works in the federal government. So government accountability is certainly something that's high on my priority list. As a U.S. service member and as really just as an American, national security is number one on my list. And that can be whether you're talking about ISIS or whether you're talking about education or whether you're talking about immigration. I consider them all to be very high on the list of national security.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things about in national security is immigration, illegal immigration especially, and open borders. And now some people have thought that Senator Rubio is a little bit wishy-washy on that. What is your position on that?
Well, I like to think that before we have any conversation about what we're going to do about those that have already immigrated into the United States, that we first secure the borders. I'm absolutely for that. I don't think the conversation can be had before that. Beyond that, I really look at it as a national security issue with not just the southern border, but the northern border open as well. And, I have to say that after that, I don't think I'm really willing to have any conversation about blanket amnesty whatsoever. I don't support any blanket program. I don't see as that being an efficient way for government to operate, saying that we're going to do a one-size-fits-all approach to anything, and that's what blanket anything, especially blanket amnesty, is. So I don't support that in any way.
Now, some conservatives advocate using the military to secure the borders. Do you think that is a prudent application?
I think that's up to the states to decide if they want to use those border states, if they want to use their National Guard to secure those borders, and they see that as the best route to maintain that sovereignty. Then they're best equipped to judge that. But, it's something that's absolutely a concern to all of us. When we talk about, what President Obama is doing with amnesty, and we say, this isn't something that's just going to be where the bill is going to be footed by the federal government. When you're talking about amnesty, every city and town and state, they're the ones that bear the cost of this blanket amnesty that they're pushing for. When you're talking about the cost of public education, the cost of food stamps, the cost of fire, the cost of police, the cost of housing assistance, these are things that affect every local government, and that's why it really needs to become an issue at the forefront for everybody.
Now, it sounds like you're a bit of a states' rights advocate, and there are a lot of people out there that would like that to be the case. Are you big
Absolutely.
on states' rights? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I think, it's a conversation that we can especially have this week when we're talking about what went on with the issue of gay marriage and, basically the Supreme Court taking it upon themselves to say we're going to be a legislating body and take the right away from the states, which is, something that, Scalia had a dissent on this opinion, on this ruling. And I want to say it's something like maybe 10 or 15 years back. He had a very similar dissent on a case called Lawrence v. Texas, where he was saying, hey, this is basically the end of morals legislation for the states. And you hate to see, the states lose their ability to have that piece of the democratic system.
Yeah, it is quite troubling that this is, the third, at least the third time that the Supreme Court has weighed in and sort of rewritten the law to make it sound or mean something that wasn't originally intended. Now, speaking of that, there's also the big brouhaha over the first Supreme Court decision over Obamacare, and now recently with last week's decision on one of the provisions of Obamacare. Do you think that we really should repeal it?
I am a repeal and replace Obamacare candidate, and I don't think what's gone on with the Supreme Court ruling has changed the need to do this. It's altered the conversation. It's kicked the can down the road a little bit. But for those of us that see these issues with Obamacare or with the Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't change our minds in saying this needs to be repealed and replaced.
Okay, now when you say replace, now a lot of people might think of that as, well, that sounds like what Bonnier and the group are talking about, replacing, coming up with their own big government version. What exactly do you mean by replace?
So for me, I've always been a proponent of individual health savings accounts. This is something that Newt Gingrich has been putting forward for years. And basically the idea that you have a program that gives incentive for not pursuing care that you really don't need. Like I give the example of saying, I'm on two prosthetic legs pretty much every single day of my life. But you know what? I never use a wheelchair. I always use my prosthetics. But regardless of that fact, if I wanted to, I could go out right now and I could tell the Department of Veterans Affairs that I want a new wheelchair, and they would probably flip the bill for that for $3,000-$4,000 for a new wheelchair, even though I wouldn't use it at all. And the idea of individual health savings accounts is that because it's a savings account in your own name, that you do not seek care that you're not needing. So I wouldn't seek a wheelchair that I don't need, because that's taking something that's essentially in my own pocket out of it. And it gives basically a system of accountability to the healthcare system.
Now, one of the big issues for a lot of people is our national debt. I mean, Puerto Rico is on the verge of defaulting, and you have some of the candidates like Jeb Bush saying that they support a Chapter 9 bankruptcy for Puerto Rico. Well, what about the federal government? Because obviously, in this particular case, the Fed is going to have to try to step in and put some money in there to try to keep it afloat.
And we saw Greece today, right, talking about that they may have to default on their debt.
Right. So we're, 18 trillion plus. How do you see us reining in this runaway debt?
I don't think that's an easy question to answer whatsoever, but I think it has to be accomplished one bill, one program, one anything at a time. That everything is, people take a look at this, congressmen and senators and the executive branch take a look at this and say, okay, we need to find a way to become statesmen again, to work together and to look at this and say, this is where we cannot spend, this is where we cannot spend, this is a priority, this is where we have to spend, and basically go through it in a very methodical way and be accountable to the people that you represent. Say, okay, the people of the United States of America are entrusting us with their tax dollars, which we take off of their plate, and they're trusting that we're going to spend this in a wise way. And let's make sure that we do that. And, for me, one of the examples that I give, I know a lot of people say that they're proponents for a balanced budget amendment. And I often say, I'm not a proponent for a balanced budget amendment. I'm a proponent for a surplus budget amendment. I think that, most people aren't just happy saying, okay, I broke even, but they're happy when they actually put a little money away for a rainy day. And I think the government needs to be basically fashioned in the exact same way, where they say, okay, we're going to have a surplus, and beyond that surplus, we're going to use that to incrementally pay down any debt that we have, and we're also going to use that to incrementally decrease tax burden on the people, and that's where I see that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that are really looking at the tax issue and that they're being overtaxed. My state personally doesn't have state sales, general sales, or income tax, and I know Florida is also a one of the lower tax burden states, so we kind of get the benefit of that. But there's the issue of the IRS too, and of course, Lois Lerner, we've learned that they've erased some of her emails even after they were subpoenaed. Do you see yourself, once you're in the House, of being on the side of pursuing this more on a legal process?
Absolutely. It's a responsibility to the people that if, somebody was going out there attacking individuals based on their position in the IRS or any other government agencies, individuals or groups, then that absolutely needs to be pursued. That's a misuse of the government trust and the government power. And the only way probably to help anybody regain that trust, if it's even possible to help somebody regain that trust, is to make sure you go after those accountable. I don't think there's a question in that.
Well, geez. Well, we're just about out of time for this hour. I know you have to run, but tell everybody how they can learn a little bit more about you and possibly support you if they wanted to.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. And people can find me on my website at www.mastforcongress.com, or they can find me on Twitter at BrianMastFL, or they can find me on Facebook as well.
All right, Brian, I really do appreciate you being here. Definitely, ladies and gentlemen, another American hero who is continuing to try to serve his country. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.
Folks, we will be right back.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You enjoyed the conversation with Mr. Brian Mast. M-A-S-T is how you spell his name. Candidate, war hero, and candidate for U.S. House of Representatives down in Florida, Colonel Allen West's former seat. If you wish to give me a call this evening, the number is toll-free 603-835-3224. That's 603-835-3224. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am still your lovable host, Elrod. Hey, there is a lot being said. Now, I guess we probably should have known that there was going to be a lot of conversation on this ruling, but the Supreme Court's ruling on gay marriage has really sparked debate. Now, frankly, I'm surprised this debate didn't happen before the Supreme Court decision. I'm actually upset about that, because this might have changed the course of, well, at least possibly Justice Kennedy anyway. But, I'm hearing a lot of these, these advocates of the LGBT community talking about this is a civil rights issue, and all that kind of stuff. But I got to tell you, and they talk about, how minorities are like, gays are like minorities now, and people need to stand up, for the minorities. And I got to tell you that the African American community in this country does not support gay marriage or the gay agenda. They don't. They do not believe that gay rights is akin to African American civil rights. They don't see a correlation. And in fact, many African Americans get highly upset and they did get upset when the LGBT community tried to co-opt the 60s civil rights movement. You got to understand that we're talking, people who support Obama almost, en masse. And they break from him on this. But you don't hear this in the lamestream media. You don't see this in the lamestream press. But here's a story from Newsmax. Black pastors group urges civil disobedience against gay marriage ruling. Now, I'm not making this stuff up. We're not talking about ultra-conservative black churches here. Now, the funny thing is that, well, I guess there's a third or a fourth church down in the South was burned over the weekend, and this is way out of hand now. And the funny thing is that I think what you're gonna start to see is a rise of the minority, especially maybe black, African Americans, who just aren't gonna, they've already been through this. We've already been through this. And there are still a lot of people still alive that have lived through this. And they're just saying, oh, hell no, we are not doing this all over. Because they, so a lot of people died for civil rights in this country, believe it or not. Mississippi burning, anybody? There's no way that they're going to go back to, people hanging in trees, being lynched. They're not going to stand for it. But black pastors they're also not going to, the black family's already been devastated enough. And now you want to add this to it. And because what's going to happen. You're going to have, two wonderful little white gay men are going to want to adopt a little black child. And because, they're married now, they can be legally married. So there isn't going to be much standing in the way of them being able to do it. And the black community doesn't like white couples adopting black children in the first place. Now, can you imagine two guys or two women who want to adopt a little black child? Oh, hell's going to break loose on this. They are, black, oh, hell no. They're just not going to stand for it. But the head of an organization of African-American pastors told Newsmax over the weekend that Christians must oppose the Supreme Court's gay marriage ruling through civil disobedience because he says you do something to get arrested to call attention to the injustice. Now, they're calling this ruling an injustice. Now, you're talking about people who full well understand and know what injustice is. And they're calling this ruling from the Supreme Court guaranteeing gay marriage rights. They're calling it an injustice. Now, this particular pastor, he says, I was in the civil rights movement, so I know how to do it. And that was the Reverend Bill Owens. He's president of the Coalition of African American Pastors. And he said in an interview, when we sat down at the counters and lunch counters in restaurants, we knew we were going to be arrested. You do things to get arrested to call attention to it. So many people were silent. The church people were absolutely silent on this issue, which is absolutely true. He continues, a few leaders spoke out, but the masses of the church people were silent. Now, listen to why he says that was. Now, this is, I've said something similar to this, but listen to why he thinks that the silence happened. Now, when he was asked why people were unwilling to speak against President Barack Obama when he came out for gay marriage in 2012, Reverend Owens responded, and this is what he said. The whites didn't want to come out against Obama since he endorsed it so strongly, and they didn't want to be called bigots. And the blacks, he says, didn't want to say they were betraying a black man. Now, folks, I told you with this president, it was going to be all about race, not policy. And this is a direct result of what the lamestream cheerleading media has done to the American people to try to crush and quiet dissent. Whites became so afraid of speaking out against what this president supported because every time they say, well, we don't like this policy, they were lambasted by and called bigots, racist. I mean, I'm looking today at, at Facebook, all these different articles and stories talking about white supremacy. And it's even gotten on, a bunch of liberal whites have gotten on board of this and talking about their own white supremacy and how it's degrading to African Americans. And I even had an argument with somebody who was trying to tell me that white is not even a race. Like, are you kidding me? They're trying to dilute their own race now. I mean, liberals are they're so self-loathing and so self-hating that it has gotten to the point where they're saying white is not a race. But black is a race. Asian is a race, but white is not. Now, I don't know how they actually come up with that kind of crap, but they are. And so because whites are not a race, they shouldn't have this supremacy issue because, whites are very diversified. Well, yeah, so are Asians. So are blacks. They're very diversified. But you're not talking about, being Swedish or French is not a race. I guess you'd have to say, well, then we're Americans, so we're the American race, I guess. I don't know. But no, that's not it either. But they're trying to, for lack of a better word at the moment, whitewash all of this and trying to say that look, whites are the problem all over the world. And that is also not true. And that's the problem with this white supremacy theory, is that the whites are the problem or the evil for everything that's going on in the world. Are you kidding me? That is far from the truth. Well, whites are the majority. Where? Yeah, sure. In the most Western of nations, like Western Europe and the northern part of North America. You go outside that, whites are actually the minority on this planet, just like blacks. More than half the world's population are Asian. So, by definition, we're all minorities compared to them. This whole notion that whites are ruling the world, that's just not the case anymore. Now, the Reverend says that I came out very powerfully against Mr. Obama when he stood for same-sex marriage. A sharply divided Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on Friday that gays and lesbians had a legal right to marry in all 50 states. Only 36 states in the District of Columbia had allowed gay marriage. But more importantly, I don't think a single state actually voted it in. It was all pushed on the people of those states. And at least half of those 36 were pushed by a judge. Not even by their legislature, with a governor signing it into law. It was pushed on them by a judge. Or a panel of judges. And everybody thinks that the problem is that you have a number of quiet gay people who just want to be able to live their life quietly like everybody else. And I have these liberals out there that they exposed their hand because they talked about all the hatred that conservatives have and Republicans have for gays, and that none of them stand up for gay rights. Like, really? So the fact that libertarians who are considered to be, extreme conservatives, libertarians, while they do not generally support gay marriage, but they do because they do not believe the government should be involved in it in the first place. So people should be allowed to marry any other person that they want. That's what libertarians believe. You have the Republican Log Cabin group that, of course, the liberal gays forget about this, who sued the government to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Yes, it was a Republican group that did that. And you have some moderate Republicans and other conservative Republicans who also believe that government should not be involved in that sort of decision. However, they believed in things like civil unions, but they didn't want to redefine marriage. But they also forget, these stupid liberals also forget that there are liberal Democrats who were against gay marriage. Who were those? Well, people who called themselves liberal Democrats, but were also true Catholics, members of the Catholic Church. Now, most members of the Catholic Church do not dare voice an opinion or have a belief outside of the Pope that differs from the Pope. And they stood with their clergy about gay marriage. But you don't hear about that. No, the Catholic Church, yeah, they should allow gays right now. Yes, they absolutely should. But you don't hear about the rank and file of the Catholic Church, a lot of whom who've become liberal over the past 40 or 50 years and have gone to the Democrat side, mostly because of JFK being a Catholic Democratic president. But again, they don't stand for it. They don't agree with it. So you have all these polls and everything out there stating that, well, maybe, we've changed our view on the gay lifestyle. And the reality is, on the street, this country really hasn't. No, sure, they don't believe that gays should be targets of violence. Absolutely not. But they do not believe that, and we've also come to realize that, you hear a lot about this 1 in 10. The gay population in this country, as it stands now, that identifies itself as being gay, is not 10%. In fact, it's less than 5%. It's around the 2 to 4% range of the American population identifies itself as LGBT. That's the truth. Go look it up. So, again, this whole notion, what Justice Kennedy did is he opened a Pandora's box. It is going to be nearly impossible to close it. And that was done on purpose, because this is going to end up being a direct attack on Christianity. Now, understand that they're going to be attacking Christians, even though there is a common enemy out there who they do not even want to bring up, that is more adamant against the homosexual lifestyle, period, let alone gay marriage. And that is Islam. I know you have the extreme groups like the Westboro Baptist Church, picketing funerals and things like that, saying God hates fags, God hates... Yeah, but you don't see the Westboro Baptist Church stringing up gays, chopping the heads off of gays. No, but you see Islamist countries doing that to this very day. But there is no criticism of Islam for that. Just Christianity with a few radicals. Look, the Bible is pretty clear. No, it does not say that loving another person, even if they're the same sex as you, is a sin. Absolutely not. And they make the mistake, well, Jesus didn't say anything, and it didn't say anything about homosexuality, and I'm not going to go into a dissertation or a sermon or anything, but did not Jesus say that he was God? He was the Son of God, and he was God. Did he not say that? Yes, he did. He claimed to be God. Now, if Jesus is God, God spoke in the Old Testament. Again, Christians, especially the liberals, try to tell Christians, well, this is what Jesus didn't say and said. But the problem is that he did say it. He said it in the Old Testament. Because the Old Testament is still as relevant as the New Testament. Jesus said, I did not come to change the law, but to fulfill the law. And by that, he meant the law of redemption. Nothing else. The rest of the law still stands. Go back and read it again if you do not believe me. Jesus said, I came to fulfill the law, not change it. Thus he was talking about the law of redemption. He was the ultimate sacrificial lamb, the ultimate sacrifice. Plain and simple. That does not negate, because if that were the case, then that means the 10 Commandments are negated. But they're not. They're not. So all the laws relating to redemption have come to a complete fulfillment in Christ. So you no longer have to do all that redemptive type of stuff. Those laws weren't changed. They were fulfilled. They were told way back in the beginning that there would be someday the ultimate lamb, the ultimate sacrifice where we wouldn't have to do this anymore. He came to fulfill that law, not change anything else. So when people try to tell you that Christ did not speak on homosexuality, they're lying, because he did. Plain and simple. Now, I know that there are a lot of gay people that struggle, a lot of bisexuals that struggle with their heartfelt religious belief in being who they think that they are. I know they struggle with that. And that's an internal spiritual struggle that they're going to eventually have to settle. You cannot settle in the court of law. That type of thing cannot be settled in a court of law. But we cannot codify such a thing that does not exist and never has existed by saying, well, now we're enlightened and things have changed. No, they haven't. And no, we're not so enlightened. And the way that they went about doing it is a danger for us from now on. Because now, based on this broad sweeping decision that Justice Kennedy talks about, means that a number of groups that even gays do not want to be a part of now have the opportunity to argue, rightfully so, to have their rightful place among alternative lifestyles. North American Man-Boy Love Association, I might add. I always bring this up. Can gays always cringe at that? Oh my, that is just wrong. A grown man shouldn't be trying to take a teenage boy as their lover. Well, why not? There's Jesus didn't say anything about that, did he? The ancient Greeks used to do it. So why not? Why do homosexuals, two adults get to bend, make the rules then? Why can't this, 35-year-old or 40-year-old man decide that he wants to love and marry this 16-year-old boy? Why not? Because we say that's wrong. Really? Well, didn't we say that homosexual marriage was wrong? Or what's the problem with, a straight woman, straight teacher? 28 years old going after her 14-year-old high school student. What's wrong with that? They're in love. You can see where this can be a problem, right? I mean, it's opening the door, and not to mention, how about polygamist? Who are you to tell me that I can only have one wife or only one husband? Why can't I have three? It's not hurting anybody. And indeed, there are some people that don't legally have multiple wives, but they do. So why can't they make it legal? Some countries' harems are perfectly legal. So why not? They're asking the same question. What's wrong with polygamy? If we're all adults, they'll say, and we all want this. So why can't we? Who are you to tell a bunch of consenting adults that they can't? In not just polygamy, but what is it? The omni. Where you have 3 women who are married to 2 guys or something like that. They're all married together. What's wrong with that? You got 5 people who are consenting adults who want to be married, like in that vein. Why not? They exist. They do it now without legally being married. So why don't they get the benefit of having government protection and benefits as well? That's what it's all about, folks. It's about the money. Why don't they get the benefits as well? So, but these are alternative lifestyles that even the LGBT community frowns upon. And now, guess who's going to start being labeled as being bigoted, being closed-minded, and they're not going to like it because they already don't. That's the LGBT community. You know, Kennedy, thank you very much for this open-mindedness. You just probably destroyed our society.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here, but then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra-Lipo-Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra-Lipo-Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra-Lipo-Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra-Lipo-Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra-Lipo-Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra-Lipo-Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra-Lipo-Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge. Lovers all across the globe. It is I, your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is live free or die. It is not big government or bust, and it has not changed because I checked again today and it's still live free or die. It is Monday, beginning of the week, June the 29th in the year of our Lord 2015. The number that you can call this evening, toll free if you wish to join me here on the Rod Eccles Show, is 603-835-3224. 603 digits, area code. Hey, I mentioned it earlier about what Jeb Bush said. You have to understand one thing. Government isn't very good at being fiscally responsible. But when government isn't fiscally responsible, then it's not the government that suffers, it's the people. But they will always make it sound like it's the government that's going to suffer, when in reality, it's the people. Well, if you don't do this for, like Greece is like, well, if you don't renegotiate our debt, then, government can't pay this back and we're going to pay too much interest. But the reality is, it's the Greek citizens that are going to have to pay for all of that. They're going to have to cough up the money. And they're pretty ticked about it, actually. Well, here, we're running into the same thing. We're starting to see, hey, we saw Detroit filed for municipal bankruptcy. We saw the sad, sorry state that Detroit, Michigan ended up being in. And how did it get there? Well, overspending and being anti-business, really, basically anti-wealth, private wealth. People weren't going to stay around. Well, now you're looking at Puerto Rico. And you are not going to believe this about the little island possession that is known as Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico can no longer make payments on its $73 billion debt. Puerto Rico has a $73 billion debt. No wonder Puerto Ricans are fleeing the island left and right. Now they can no longer make payments on this debt, according to Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla, who warns the island is perilously close to entering a death spiral. He says the debt is not payable. There is no other option. This is not politics. This is math. The governor told the New York Times in an interview published yesterday evening, but we have to make the economy grow. If not, we will be in a death spiral, he said. The warning comes just one day before the governor is expected to release a report conducted by former officials at the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank that paints a very weak picture, a very bleak picture of the Commonwealth's finances. According to media reports, the governor will deliver a major speech following the report's release. Now, Puerto Rico's economy has been in hot water for years due to government overspending, high energy costs, and dependence on debt. Now the U.S. territory is dangerously close to default. And, of course, this is coming from CNN Money. In an attempt to avoid missed payment, the Puerto Rican government is now seeking concessions from its creditors, including deferring some debt payments or extending the repayment schedule. It seems no one will emerge from this crisis unscathed. The governor is now urging the island's creditors to share the sacrifice. Why should the creditors share the sacrifices? They did not borrow and overspend the money. Everybody has to sacrifice but the government, right? How about the government just pony up the money? We don't have it. Well, how about you stop spending? Yeah, that's it. Now, one flashpoint seems to be a $400 million debt payment that the government-run electricity provider, PREPA, must make on July 1st. It's a debt that PREPA, P-R-E-P-A, almost certainly can't pay in total. Now, Moody's has rated the electricity company's bonds in the lowest possible category. Now, things have gotten so bad that Puerto Ricans of all social classes have left in search of jobs elsewhere. Between 1980 and 2000, the average annual migration of Puerto Ricans to the mainland U.S. was about 12,000 people. From 2010 to 2013, the economy started tanking. That figure jumped to 48,000 people per year. Now, every time someone leaves Puerto Rico, it only exacerbates the situation. It shrinks the island's tax base, which the government needs to pay for itself and its debts. In recent years, the government just issued even more debt to pay off its current debt. Now, if there are no jobs, how are you going to collect revenue on people who are not employed? Government doesn't seem to understand it. Well, 48,000 people per year leaving, that's a large percentage of your population on an annual basis. Now, that's 48,000 people who didn't have a job. Or maybe they were looking for better prospects. Well, You know, when you spend that kind of money, what do you expect to happen? When you keep spending. Now, obviously, if people are leaving, why do you need the same level of government services? If you have fewer people, wouldn't you expect that the government services would be less expensive? Yeah, and well, I know that there are specific stranded costs. I mean, you know, people leave, you're still going to have the same roads. I get that part, but for other, social services, they're not needed. There's fewer people. Hey, if you got fewer people, then you probably need fewer cops. Well, I hate to say it, but that would work out to be. You'd need fewer government workers in the social aspects of your government because there's fewer people to administer. Right? Yeah. But evidently they didn't really think of that, I guess. I mean, you're talking let's put it in perspective here. Keene, New Hampshire has about 23,000 people, 24,000 people. So that is twice the size of the small town or small city of Keene, New Hampshire, leaving Puerto Rico every year. I mean, that's 2 Keene, New Hampshires. I don't know of any any state that would, be losing 50,000 people a year over an extended period of time would find itself in a world of hurt. So you've got to, you've got to be able to look at what you're doing. Well, they're big government spending. But you've got to be able to look at what you're doing and say, well, but see, these big spenders just won't let go. They won't let go. They simply, they believe that all that money's theirs anyway. They just won't let go. And they really need to let go of it. They need to start cutting back on services and the size of government. Now, Jeb Bush, he's saying that he supports Chapter 9 for Puerto Rico, Chapter 9 of the Bankruptcy Code, in the face of massive debt. Now, when Bush visited Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, on a campaign stop back in April, he told a crowd that the public agencies in Puerto Rico should be able to seek bankruptcy under Chapter 9. Now, Pedro Pierluisi, who is the island's non-voting member of Congress, has offered a bill in Congress that would allow Puerto Rico the ability to use Chapter 9 to restructure its debt as other states are able to do. Now, while a state can't file for bankruptcy, municipalities and public agencies can. Now, Puerto Rico should be given the same rights as the states, but said that he also supports allowing Puerto Rico the right to pursue statehood, saying that he thinks it's the best path. Now, Puerto Rico is currently facing $72 billion in debts, which Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla says is not payable. So, you have Jeb Bush, who's out there saying that, well, maybe they should be allowed to utilize Chapter 9. I say no. I say you make these big government, big liberal, spending government officials, I say you make them face the people and you make them pay. Well, Rod, that's only going to hurt the public and that's going to hurt the people. Yeah. Because you know what? They're the ones that also voted for it. If you voted for it in Detroit, well, guess what? You got what you voted for. So if you voted for these idiots in Puerto Rico, you got what you voted for. So, yeah, in a way, you deserve it. Suck it up and take it. Other than that, you might as well. The only problem with 48,000 people per year leaving the island is that, if they're liberal, they're exporting all that liberalism to places that they're going to. And I think that we should, round them all. This is probably going to get me in trouble. But we should round up all the Puerto Ricans. Say, go back to Puerto Rico and fix your mess. Fix it. Fix it. I mean, after all, you created. Do you want the white man to come down there and fix it for you? I mean, we know how white supremacy is an issue. You can't do that, because then whites will think they're superior and all that kind of stuff, and you don't want that. So, Puerto Ricans, Boricua, go back to Puerto Rico and fix your mess. Now, if you voted for these idiots, you definitely should go back and fix the mess. And if you didn't vote for it, well, maybe you could probably stay where you are. Because you didn't contribute to the problem if you didn't vote for the people that are causing the problem. It's just like Detroit. And people that live there now in Detroit, they're complaining. All those who voted for this big government spending in Detroit are finding it a very hard way of life in Detroit now, and some of them can't leave because they can't afford to, but they're the ones that ask for this by voting for all these big government advocates, and they get into office and start instituting all this big government, big spending type of thing, and they got in trouble, and now the city's in shambles. Well, this is the same thing that's going to happen to the entire island of Puerto Rico. This is also affecting the tourist trade. Tourists don't want to go there now. I understand that Puerto Rico's tourist trade is way down, and that's not necessarily because of the economy in the United States, although that has a little bit to do with it. But think about it: you do not need a passport to go to Caribbean island, and from what I understand, Puerto Rico is absolutely beautiful, but it's in full despair. And it's in despair because of government overspending, government overreach, just government. And I know some people are probably saying, well, you got to have some government, Rod. You got to have some. Yeah, you need to have a little bit of government. That is true. If you're going to have a modern society or society of any kind, there has to be a little bit of law and order. That is absolutely true. But you do not need $72 billion worth of law and order. You just don't. There's no way you can possibly convince me that you do. That would be ludicrous. Luda! Not the rapper. For those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Rio Linda, Ludacris is also a successful rap artist, if you will, hip hop artist. And sometimes he just shortens it and says Luda. If you ever listen to any of his songs, he'll just say Luda. But that's his stage name, is Ludacris. Some people are actually, I don't listen to a lot of hip hop. But I gotta admit, there's some stuff by Ludacris I have liked. There's some stuff by 50 Cent that I have liked. Now I can't really say that there is anything from Kanye West that I like. I know a lot of people consider him to be a musical genius. I'm just not feeling it. But, 50 Cent, I like some of 50 Cent stuff. I know some of it's a little bit vulgar, but some of it's not so bad. And I know he's been trying to get into acting and producing and things like that now, so he's not making a lot of music per se for himself. But, you know, it was okay back in, you know, the turn of the century, if you will. You know, he had a couple of mega hits back in the day, I guess you could say. And he's been around for a little while now. But other rappers, I'm just, you know, Eminem was just an angry young man. And if you notice, a lot of his stuff today is a lot different from what it was back then because he's lost a lot of his anger, thankfully. He's come to terms and to grips with who he is, what his past was like, and all that kind of stuff. So thankfully that there's a lot less anger in that man now because he's not so young anymore. Have you seen his daughter, Haley? She grew up to be a very beautiful young woman. She's 18, 19 now or something like that? She's very pretty. I don't know how old she is. And she might not even be legal, 18, but she was doing some modeling. And I think that's where I saw some pictures because everybody was talking about, Haley Mathers, which is Eminem's daughter. And she's modeling, so I assumed that she was at least 18 or 19, and that she may not be, but she's, very pretty. But I've never really been a huge Eminem fan. I know there are a lot of people that are Eminem fans. I'm not. But Eminem, he hails from I guess the 8 Mile section of Detroit or around Detroit, and Detroit is just not. He's I don't know. Maybe if they had Eminem in office, he would have wrapped their way out of all this mess that they're currently in, and they wouldn't have had to file bankruptcy. Why not? You have all these wonderful, rich, liberal people. Why don't they put in their they believe in the system so much and high taxes so much. Why don't they, put in their hard-earned money to save places like this, because Eminem is worth a lot of money. They always talk about CEOs' salaries. These guys make $1 bazillion every year, just entertaining us, selling us records. And oftentimes it's subpar music, at least in my opinion. I mean, I am definitely... There are people... Well, it's not just rappers. There are, musicians that have made a lot of money that I'm just not fans of. Like Nicki Minaj, not a fan of hers. Rihanna, not a fan of hers. I know a lot of people like them. And they've made a lot... Well, Nicki Minaj and Rihanna, they're from Barbados, I think, right? They're not American. No, I don't think they're American citizens. I think they're still from, I don't know, somewhere in the Caribbean. Is it Barbados? I think I'm not sure. I don't follow them that closely. I couldn't tell you. But, there are other American actors and singers that are worth $1 bazillion. But yeah, I don't see them out there, offering their wonderful wealth to help their local communities or their state or their federal government get out of debt. They always talk about, well, the rich, these CEOs make so much money. I mean, really? You go to work for, 1 or 2 months out of the year, and you make $30 million a picture, and many of you who make, in the stratosphere, 10, $20, $30 million a picture, you're also getting a portion or a percentage of the box office receipts. I mean, like, what was it for Pirates of the Caribbean? Johnny Depp made, by the time it was all said and done, almost $100 million, like $80 million on top of his salary. So he cleared like $100 million. I think that was the number. No, he cleared almost $100 million on movies. So, well, yeah. Look, that's a lot of, when a CEO makes $30 million, we hear about this, how bad it is, how disproportionate. What about the workers? Well, what about all those people that help make a movie? Have you seen the credits at the end of a movie, how long that list of credits is? Why don't they share their wealth with all those people working on that movie. You know, most of them are not getting the big bucks. They're just not. The stars are getting all the money, and the producer and the directors now. Directors are getting huge paychecks. I mean, this is what it's ridiculous. How can you say that you're against CEO pay when you're talking? Well, you know what a CEO is in a movie? Is a producer and a director. I mean, those guys run the show. And they're making all this kind of money. Then the actors are, they're like board people. They're making all this, people on the board, they're making all this kind of money. And $20, $30 million. Well, how about giving some of that back then to your workers below you that help make the movie what it is? Because without them, you wouldn't have a movie.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
So the Supreme Court handed down another decision. Back up a little bit. By the way, folks, Walmart says they won't make a cake with the Confederate flag, but they okayed a cake with the Islamic State, ISIS flag on it. And now they're trying to backtrack and apologize for that. Idaho city's ordinance tells pastors to marry gays or go to jail. How do you go to jail for not marrying somebody? Told you folks, this is it's an attack on Christianity. Because I don't see them telling imams in a mosque to marry them or go to jail. Just pastors. Tells pastors to marry gays or go to jail. And now Russia is striking out and saying, who's godless now? Russia is pointing to the USA. It can't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, well, because, Russia's kind of found its, refound ever since the Iron Curtain fell, has found its religion again, which is Eastern Orthodoxy. Eastern Orthodox Christians. And they're not about to bend on the gay marriage thing, and neither is Putin. Or the Russians in general, but look, they didn't even really feel. Remember the Winter Games when they were talking about people of homosexual bent, and if they were to act up and be homosexual in Russia, they would get arrested and stuff. And Russia really didn't back down from their belief on homosexuality, if you want to put it that way, but. It is what it is. So the Supreme Court, anyway, by the way, you can give me a call. It's toll free 603-835-3224. The Supreme Court handed down another decision, but this time it dealt a serious blow to President Obama's climate change agenda by striking down key environmental regulations limiting pollution from power plants. Now, Justice Anthony Kennedy sided with the conservative side of the court in the 5-4 decision, with the majority ruling that the Obama administration should have factored into its rulemaking process the cost of the proposed regulations known as the Mercury and Air Toxics Standards, or MATS. Now, the rules, which critics say will drive up electricity prices across America, are a key piece of Obama's broader climate agenda. Now, the EPA has estimated the rules would cost about $9.6 billion per year, but failed to adequately consider that high price tag when developing the rules, the court said. Now, in the majority opinion, Justice Antonin Scalia blasted the administration for blatantly ignoring the cost of the proposal while relying on its own internal estimates of how much money the regulations would save through public health benefits. Now, the EPA's decision to regulate power plants allowed the agency to reduce power plants' emissions of hazardous air pollutants and thus to improve public health and the environment. But the decision is also ultimately will also ultimately cost power plants, according to the agency's own estimate, nearly $10 billion a year. It's not going to cost the power plants $10 billion a year. It's going to cost the American people $10 billion a year in higher electric rates. Now, he wrote, Justice Scalia wrote, EPA refused to consider whether the cost of its decision outweighed the benefits. So the agency gave cost no thought at all, because it considered cost irrelevant to its initial decision to regulate. That's all they care about, regulate. We're going to regulate. Doesn't matter how much it costs. We going to regulate because we the regulators. Mount up. So they don't care. You see what I did there? See that? Yeah. For all you cool people out there, you see what I did there? Yeah. Okay. But all they want to do is regulate, rule. They don't care what it costs you. They don't give two flying leaps what it cost you. You should be happy to pay the higher cost because it'll mean that you'll breathe easier, which means you'll spend less money at the doctors or the hospital. Now, what about people who don't have health issues and never get them? They're not saving anything. I mean, they're not saving anything, are they? I mean, well, you don't go to if you don't go to the doctor either, you're not really saving anything. But you're not saving nothing. If you don't, what if you don't? But you're still going to end up paying the electric bill, right? Well, unless you're off grid. Well, no, you can't do that in many communities. You have to be connected. So you're going to get charged anyway. Look, they're just... Now, ain't this a pip? Think about this for a second, folks. You've got some communities, some towns, some cities, municipalities that tell you that you have to be connected to the grid. That could be water, electric, gas or sewer, whatever. You have to be connected. Even if you have adequate self-generating power and water, you have to be connected to the grid. Now, don't these people also say that they want to have clean energy? So if you put up solar panels in a wind generator that generates all the power that you need and probably causes sending some of it back into the system, but let's say you disconnect, so you can't do that. So you generate all the power that you need. You don't need any more. In fact, you have an abundance of it. You can't even use it all. And yet, and it's all from wind or solar, and it's clean energy, renewable as they call it. So it's not polluting anything, and it's quiet, and you don't contribute to the major power plant that is producing the power that's sent along the lines. But you're told you have to connect. And if you don't connect, they will condemn your house, which means you can't live there. So they're forcing you to join up with the dirty power instead of the clean power. All the while saying, well, yeah, we need regulations on these plants. Well, how about if more people did the self-generating thing, and then they wouldn't have to connect to the grid, and thus they wouldn't need as many power plants. But see, people, it is not about saving the planet. It is about ruling over you, telling you how to live your life. It is about regulating you. Plain and simple, because if they truly, really cared about the environment, they would be doing everything that they could to get every single building and home in these United States hooked up with an alternative or alternate energy producing source, even if it only produced a portion of that building or home's energy needs. Can you imagine if every single home in the United States had solar panels and or a wind generating turbine? Not a wind generator, but a power a turbine, wind turbine. Can you imagine? Not to mention, we wouldn't have all of these people running around saying that, yeah, our infrastructure, our grid is open. It's open for terrorist attack. Well, people are generating their own power. And if they're generating 50, 60, 80% of their power, 100% of their power, then somebody attacking a central power plant or transfer station, it isn't really going to affect them much. Think about that. But no, they can't do that. I mean, hell, we're having troubles building, wind turbines off the coast of Massachusetts now. Even though it's over the horizon, you won't be able to see them. We know that they're there. And if we get in our yacht and we just go out a few miles over that way, the horizon will change and we'll be able to see it. And Buffy, and we don't want to see 5 miles away from the island over the horizon. That's another 10 miles out there. We don't want to see those ugly monstrosities from our yacht. Hey, those are Ted Kennedy's people, just saying. EPA, meanwhile, speaking of the EPA, and maybe the courts will do something about this too, or maybe Congress should actually do something about the EPA in doing this. EPA should call them EPA. Yeah, EPA. EPA. Sounds terrible when you say EPA. And you should always say it just like that, too. You shouldn't say EPA. You should say EPA. Every time you say the EPA, you should actually pronounce it and call it EPA. Because it sounds terrible. So the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, has released a final clean water rule. That one critical voice is warning will put all tributaries under the control of federal regulators. Basically, anything with a bed, a bank, or an ordinary high water mark, including ditches. Now, former Representative Larry Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, it's almost like Combine, wrote in the Hill, not only does it allow the EPA onto their land, but it throws the gate wide open to environmental group-led citizen lawsuits that promises to carry the rules reach beyond what even the EPA has envisioned. And trust me, that's pretty hard to do because they envision a lot. The rule itself is virtually boundless. So this means that some environmentalist wacko group could say, you know what? There's a small stream running through your yard, and you're building a shed, and we don't like your shed because you're going to put it in, a lawn tractor in there, and that lawn tractor is going to harm the environment. So we're going to sue you to keep you from building your shed. Look, this is not far-fetched. When I lived in Keene, in Swansea, New Hampshire, there is a gentleman who wanted to fill in a part of his property. And he wanted to fill in part of his I mean, he's a hard-working individual. You know, just regular blue-collar guy. He wasn't rich, but he wanted to fill in a part of his property because he wanted to put in these garages, storage garage. And they were, you know, they had like 15-foot doors on them. They were kind of tall. They were big. And he was actually going to rent out a couple and use a couple for his oil delivery business. There is this one environmental wench. Yes, she was a wench. She didn't even live in the town of Swansea. Not only did she not even live in the town of Swansea, New Hampshire, she didn't even live in the state of New Hampshire. She lived in Vermont, which was not going to be affected by this man putting up 5 garages on his property. But because part of the property that he wanted to fill in, not the whole part that he was filling in, but part of it, the minority part of it, was also considered or construed to be wetlands and had a special type of protected flower in these wetlands. So she wanted to know what this guy was going to do to mitigate the loss of a few square feet of wetlands. And this guy was like, well, why do I have to mitigate anything? It's, first of all, it's my property. Second of all, it's, you know, we're not talking acres here. We're talking square feet. And he said, besides, you know how much is going to cost me to build swampland to comply with this kind of nonsense? This is what he was trying to tell the town fathers in meetings. And he was absolutely right. And she held him up for nearly a year. Until one day he said, you know what? It had the engineer's report. We can reposition these garages. And so, but he had to shrink it. So instead of 6 garages, he moved down to 5. So we can reposition the garages, and I'll lose one garage. So he's losing revenue. So that the square feet that would be mitigated, that would be lost to the fill-in, came into a lot less. And so then she finally said, well, I guess it's, you know, kind of minute now. She finally gave in. I mean, we're talking, you know, we're not talking like 5,000 square feet, or, you know, we're talking less than 100 square feet. And the guy had to get rid of a garage, reposition, you know, the other 5. So, you know, it'd be about, you know, I don't know, 10 square feet of space now being, of wetlands being lost. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This hardworking man, blue collar man, trying to feed his family, lost a year of revenue and one of the garages permanently. Simply because this woman from the state of Vermont decided that he should not be able to do it on his own property. I mean, so this is what's going to happen with this new EPA rule. There's going to be some little brook or some little stream. It is going to have water in it, maybe, you know, 2 weeks out during the rainy season in the spring, and you're not going to be able to do anything with your property because of it. Because the EPA is going to say, oh, no, you can't, because we can regulate it. Look, it's going to happen. Don't doubt me on this. This is called over. And you know, there are some people that have that have this notion that sometimes it really doesn't matter who you elect, because they never roll any of this stuff back. Even when you have some people in there who supposedly are conservatives, they don't roll any of this stuff back, at least not far enough back like it should be. They don't get rid of anything. We still have the Department of Education, even though there have been presidents that have promised to get rid of it. There have been people that have promised to roll back the power of the EPA and the FCC and other. Nope. Ronald Reagan did eliminate a lot of regulation, but it all came back with a vengeance, especially with this current president. I mean, how many new pages of regulation have we, since his tenure as over 100,000 pages of regulation, new regulation since he took office. And you're going to try to tell me that none of this is actually going to impact. Every single bit of it is going to, one way or another, impact you and I on an everyday basis. And you're really going to feel it when somebody just decides, your neighbor, maybe your neighbor gets mad at you and calls you in. Hey, yeah, I'm calling in because my neighbor, he's trying to build a shed. And that shed is over there by that brook. The brook is only a real brook, about 2 weeks to 3 weeks out of the year in the spring and the rainy season. But it's got a lot of water in it. Yeah, and he's building a shed over by, and he's going to put a tractor over there, and that tractor is going to leak gas into that brook, And before you know it, there's going to be an EPA agent or one of their representatives or some environmentalist wacko who's now on your property, and you're going to say they're trespassing, and they're going to say, nuh-uh, because we're the EPA, and we can come onto your property because you have a piece of water that we regulate, and we want to see what you're doing to it. And then you're going to get a summons and a citation at cease and desist. You can't build that shed over by that brook. And you're looking at a dry brook and thinking, why not? Because there is water in there 3 weeks out of the year during the spring, and you've got gas and oil from that tractor in the shed, and all the chemicals in the shed, and the fertilizers, and it can get into that water and then get into the groundwater. You can't do it. We have to protect our water rights. And you don't own that water. We do. The EPA, government, we own it. So we can tell you what you can do to your property. But the shed is going to be nowhere near it. It doesn't matter. Still on your property, and it is still too close to that brook. And here's how you can do it. If you build this berm, and if you build this retaining wall, and if you put in this catch basin and this filtration system, that's going to cost me $300,000. Well, that's the only way you're going to be able to put in your shed. I'm telling you, folks, this is exactly what's going to happen. Because it already happens in one form or another to business. But now these regulations are going to come down to you and me on a private, personal, local level. And, well, all I can say is you better not doubt me. Because these people, they will bankrupt you before they give up any power of regulation. I mean, you're just gonna trust me. You're gonna have to trust me on it because they are going to come after you, whether or not you actually have the ability to pay or not. Because but if you're a rancher, if you're a farmer, if you're a dairy producer, you're gonna really, even if you're a small time, if you have chickens or something on your property, the rule, Combest warned, also includes a reworking of the normal definition of adjacent, giving feds control of properties that actually abut water. And he said adjacent has been stretched to include neighboring, continuous, and bordering, while floodplain standards have been increased from 100 years to 500 years. So 500-year floodplain, a flood that only happens once every 500 years. May never have seen that flood, but now you're in that once in every 500-year floodplain, and now you come under the regulation of the EPA. Well, that sound means I am out of time for tonight. Be back here tomorrow, folks. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'm Rod Eccles. This has been The Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.